Hi YouTube! This is my first ever YouTube video. How do I go about this? I don't even know what to say. I have wanted to make a YouTube for so long because I feel like there's not enough environmental, earthy, sustainability related content from women of color and Black girls on this platform. And I don't know, this past year I've experienced so much grief and a lot of hardship that I haven't really talked about. And I think going through all of that just made me realize sometimes I just need to say f it and just do all of these things that I have been scared to do for so long, because I deserve to take up space and I've been through a lot and I just want to pursue my dreams and keep making environmentalism and sustainability mainstream. If you don't know me and you didn't come here from Instagram or TikTok, my name is Summer and I'm an environmental creative, a sustainable fashion advocate, a storyteller, amongst so many other things. Anytime someone asks me who I am and what I do, I don't really know what to say because, to be honest, I don't know. I just know I'm an artsy person, I'm a creative, and I love Earth. Oh, and I also love yoga. That's important. I have a little platform online called Climate Diva, and that's where I share a lot of my environmental storytelling, a lot of my educational content, and a lot of my sustainable fashion content. And if you're wondering where the name Climate Diva came from, I'm about to run it back for you. So I never really meant to have a following online. It was never a goal of mine to become a content creator. I just grew up really wanting to work in the environmental field. I grew up just outside of Portland, Oregon, and I always describe Portland as like fairyland. I grew up surrounded by greenery and forests, and I always grew up with this close connection to Mother Nature. And I even remember as a little kid, my mom teaching me how to garden, and those were like my first few memories of having this like very close relationship with the planet. And I remember as a little kid, I would spend most of my summers just playing outside all day with my sisters. We would catch insects in our field, salamanders, we would pick cherries off the cherry trees. We just spent most of our days outside. But even then, as a little kid, I wasn't like, I want to be an environmentalist when I grow up. I think I had thoughts of wanting to be a biologist or maybe a veterinarian, but I had no idea. It wasn't until my family had to move to Florida when I was like 11 or 12 years old when I really became passionate about environmental issues. So we had to move to the Florida Panhandle for my dad's job, and I remember at the time I did not want to move at all. I had grown up just outside of Portland my entire life, and the idea of moving all the way across the country to what I thought was the middle of nowhere in northern Florida sounded awful to me. So we ended up moving. We lived near Panama City, Florida, if any of you know where that is. And as soon as we moved, I kind of went through a little bit of a depression because we moved halfway through the school year and my parents enrolled me in virtual homeschool. So I didn't have any friends, but thankfully our house was really close to the beach and we lived right along this bay. So every day I would walk down to the beach and walk along the bay. And the more that I went down there, I started to notice more and more animal and plant life around me. And let me tell you, within like 2 or 3 weeks of moving there, I completely fell in love with the natural world in Florida. The bay that we lived next to was just teeming with life and diversity, and I just remember seeing and getting to know all of these sea creatures and plants that I had never seen before in my life. Some of them almost looked alien-like. That's how foreign they were to me as someone from the Pacific Northwest. So every day I would go down to this bay and literally just hang out with the ocean life there and bury my head in the sand. And I was just so enamored with the beauty of our planet. And the fact that all of these different marine organisms of all different sizes and plant life of all different varieties, we're all living in harmony together in this beautiful dance of life, just really opened my mind, and I started to think of them all as my family and my best friends. And oof, I don't want to get emotional, but oh God. Something else about me is that I'm a crier and I'm very emotional. And I think I cry a little bit too much. But at a time where I felt the loneliest I'd ever felt in my life, it really felt like Mother Earth was holding me and caring for me and just showing me so much wisdom and teaching me things about the world that I had never discovered before. And then the BP oil spill happened. I don't know if you remember seeing anything about that in the news. It happened in 2010, so some of you might be a little too young to remember that. BP had all of these offshore oil drilling sites in the Gulf of Mexico, and on April 20th, which is 2 days before Earth Day, mind you, one of the offshore drilling rigs exploded, killing 11 workers, and it ended up leaking toxic oil into the Gulf of Mexico for 90 days straight. It leaked over 134 million gallons of oil into the Gulf of Mexico, which is also one of the most biodiverse marine regions on the planet. And when that happened, the beach that I had come to know and love so much was completely destroyed. Like, when I tell you, it went from being teeming with life, like exploding with life, to just completely silent and dead. The water was black, the sand was black. Like, there was nothing. They had like all of these nets surrounding the coast that were supposed to be soaking up oil, but it wasn't really working because the explosion site was leaking oil for nearly 3 months straight. And that oil spill ended up causing so much irreversible damage to the ecosystems in the Gulf of Mexico. And not only that, but it completely destroyed the local economy, which depended so much on the Gulf of Mexico. When that happened, I kind of took a step back and I was like, oh, Mother Nature is actually really fragile in the hands of humans because we are so destructive and these companies really don't give a shit. And that was the first time I really became disappointed in adults for not doing the right thing. I remember one of the very first things that BP Oil did, even before they were able to contain the oil from spilling into the Gulf. BP Oil was putting out ads with Dawn soap that were basically lying to the public and telling us how much good BP Oil was doing by cleaning up wildlife with Dawn soap. And even as a little 11-year-old, I could spot BS. So after all of that happened, I kind of knew then that I really wanted to work in environmentalism and I really wanted to dedicate my life to healing our relationship with the environment. I didn't really know at what capacity, but all I did know was that I was really angry and I was really passionate about learning more about our planet and its natural systems and how to protect them. Then when I went to college, I got my degree in environmental studies. And all throughout that time, I kind of explored all of these different fields within environmentalism. I did so many internships throughout my undergrad. I worked at a community nonprofit in Portland doing research on how to make zero emissions transportation more accessible for marginalized communities. I worked in an environmental chemistry lab doing air pollution research on ozone and particulate matter. I think my favorite job that I did was working in a climate science lab doing actual climate science research. And that job I was so nervous for because I think when I walked into it, I was like, how can I be a climate scientist? Like, what? I never thought I could be a climate scientist. And it was really hard getting to learn all of the coding and everything related to it. But once I got the hang of it and I learned like all of the coding that went behind it, I really felt like such a badass. And getting to do modeling around climate science and analyzing long-term weather trends just made me feel so cool. But by the end of that experience, I got kind of tired of doing the hard science behind the climate crisis. And I felt like scientists were really just being ignored. And at that time, I really felt in my heart that my skills lied in communication and storytelling. I felt like a badass being a climate scientist, but I really felt drawn to the more creative fields in environmentalism. After that, I worked for a renewable energy company doing policy research. So I kind of worked in all of these different fields within environmentalism. And I think sometimes people reduce environmentalism and climate-related fields into like one type of job, but there's so many different careers and paths you can take within this field. So anyways, I'm getting to the point here. All throughout my undergrad and in my scientific studies, I felt like I was surrounded by white men. And as a young woman of color in an environmental field, in a climate field, it felt like in order to be taken seriously in my field, I needed to dull down my style and the way I expressed myself. Essentially, I just felt like I needed to fit in with the granola environmentalist aesthetic, which I've never really identified with. I just love fashion so much. I love being stylish, I love being cute, I love beauty, I love art, and being the granola environmentalist that wears like the same pair of hiking boots and a flannel all day every day was just never me, and that never will be me. So for a while I was kind of just stripping myself of all of my personal style. I would show up to class wearing like no makeup and just wearing like a flannel and leggings and boots. And another thing was I had been a working model since I was in high school, so I had kind of had had a little bit of exposure to the fashion industry. So it felt like I was kind of navigating these two worlds where I was working in the fashion industry as a model, but then also working in the environmental field as a researcher. And it felt like I had to separate those two parts of myself. And then one day, I don't know what happened, but I just kind of woke up and I was like, it's not fair to me to separate those two parts of myself, and having all of these various interests is what makes me a full human. And if I didn't see other women who looked like me or had similar interests as me in the environmental space, then I wanted to be that model for other women and girls. So that's where my blog name, Climate Diva, came from. Climate Diva is just this idea that I have these two parts of myself that both make up who I am. I have this side of me that cares about environmentalism so much and protecting our planet and caring for her. And I'm also a diva. I love style and fashion. And those are both two things that make up Summer and who I am. And I just want to be an example for other people to truly open up into your full self and into your full potential. In our society, we often try to close people off into certain categories or niches, but in a way that kind of closes off our humanity and reduces our imaginations of what a full human can be. We are all well-rounded humans, we are all multifaceted, multi-hyphenates, and it's okay to have multiple passions and multiple interests, even if none of them are related at all. So I had my Climate Diva blog all throughout college, and I was kind of using it as a space to educate people about environmental issues that I was learning about through my undergrad. I never really had a following on my Instagram throughout my undergrad. I kind of just used it as my own personal journal and diary. And again, I never really set out to be an influencer. I was kind of just using my social media as a space to air out a lot of my anxieties about the climate crisis and environmentalism, and also maybe educate my friends and people who happen to follow me. But once my videos started getting millions and millions of views, I was like, oh, these platforms are really powerful. Maybe I should take this seriously. So ever since 2021, I have been an environmental creative full-time. I make content about the climate crisis and sustainable fashion online. I've been able to consult on so many different projects. This last year, I was a consultant for a film production company, helping them come up with ideas for climate-related films and TV. In the past few years, I've started to attend Fashion Week, spotlighting sustainable fashion. I've been to conferences all around the world. I've had some really fun speaking opportunities, and I've gotten to work with the most incredible organizations, nonprofits, and sustainable brands. In the past few years, I have been working on my upcycling skills, and as of recently, I'm working on my own docuseries that spotlights slow fashion designers all around the world who are working to heal our relationship with Mother Earth. Ugh, I'm so excited about it, and I can't wait to share more, but this has really been a passion project for me and my friend. And if you were one of the people who donated to our Kickstarter to fund our initial pilot episode, thank you so much. I cannot begin to thank you enough for supporting our vision, and I cannot wait to share this pilot episode with you. I just can't wait to spotlight more sustainable fashion designers and artisans who are really showing us that we can build a fashion industry based on love and reciprocity for Mother Earth. I'm also really passionate about yoga and the ways that it can restore our mind-body-earth connection, and I'm so interested in exploring the intersections between environmentalism and yoga. I did a yoga teacher training earlier this year, so I am a certified yin teacher. And yeah, I'm excited to make more yoga content on here. Let me know if you think I should post some yoga flows on here that we can all do together. I think that'd be really fun. So that's me. I posted on my stories that I was gonna do a little Q&A in my first YouTube video, so I'm gonna answer some of the questions that you asked me. What are your favorite news outlets to stay informed on climate change, politics, etc.? One really good one is Inside Climate News, and I tend to look at more global news instead of United States focused news, so the BBC is another good one. But other than that, I feel like mainstream cable news doesn't talk about the climate crisis at all. So I tend to get a lot of information from bigger climate organizations on Instagram. I will list some of them here. Which country are you going to move now that Trump got elected? I don't know. I don't really feel the desire to flee the country because I feel like far-right extremism is on the rise worldwide. But I will say that for the longest time, probably for like 5 or 6 years, but pretty much my entire life, I have always wanted to live in France. I've been learning French the last like 7 years, and it's just always been a goal of mine. Every time I go to France, I feel so at home. And yeah, at some point I'm gonna live in France, but I don't really feel this intense desire to flee the United States. I feel like so much work needs to be done here still, and I've felt this constant pull between like, ugh, Americans constantly disappoint me, should I just flee and let everyone who voted for him deal with all the messiness? And then on the other side of that, I'm like, ugh, this is my home. So many people that I love are here. My ancestors went through way worse things than I did, and they never fled. They stayed here and fought so hard so that I could even be here. So why would I flee? Someone asked how to get over a breakup. I'm so sorry that you are going through that right now. I'm sending you all of my love through the screen and so much good energy. I would say to, at first, just sit with your emotions. Let yourself feel everything and anything. The healing process isn't linear, and it's okay if you still don't feel healed or you still don't feel better after a certain amount of time. I know for me, I process things really slowly, and it takes me years to get over things. But the beautiful thing is that time really does heal, and it might not feel like it right now, but I promise you that things will get easier as time goes on. And after you've kind of sat with those emotions and the grief, try to focus on things that make you happy or things that excite you. Just bury your head in things that will bring you joy or bring you a sense of wonder about the world. My favorite thing is to just reconnect with nature because Mother Earth heals all. What have you been jamming out to lately? Most of today and yesterday I was listening to the Marias. The song Sienna is like my favorite right now. But of course, my favorite of all time is Michael Jackson. Anyone who knows me personally and knows me well knows this. And my favorite song of all time is Human Nature. Ooh! That song just gets me. Like, if there were any one song that was me in song form, it would be Human Nature by Michael Jackson. Someone said, how did you come to create content in your niche? I think that's what this whole video was about, so hopefully I already answered the question for you. Can you describe your ideal future equitable green/sustainable city? Okay, I'm gonna get a little science fiction-y on you here because I like to dream with a big imagination and I love science fiction movies. I don't know if you've seen the movie Valerian with Cara Delevingne and Rihanna, but there's a planet on that movie called Planet Mule, and the society on that planet is my ideal sustainable civilization. All of the beings who live on that planet have the most beautiful iridescent pearl skin, and there's no concept of working for money on that planet. Everyone is just kind of vibing and spending time in their environment and loving their planet. And the energy on their planet is fueled by these little mystical creatures that produce these pearls, and everyone just like adorns themselves with the pearls, and it really reminds me of indigenous communities and how they've always lived in reciprocity with our planet. And anytime I think of like my version of utopia, I think of Planet Mule. But in terms of things that are actually doable and realistic, I think a great first step that literally all cities could take right now to make themselves more sustainable is to have free public transportation. If someone is interested in becoming an eco-creator, where do you suggest they start? I think first, just learning as much as possible about the issues or the things that you want to talk about. And I would say figure out how to establish a really unique point of view that you can always base and ground your content in. And next, I would just say start creating the content and create as much content as you can. I'm always someone that believes in quality over quantity. I know these algorithms tell us to post every day, post multiple times a day so that the algorithm boosts us. But I really think that quality content, especially when it comes to environmentalism and sustainability, is so much better than this like fast food style of content that we see so much of these days. Especially when it comes to sustainability, in this space we're always talking about slowing things down because our society is moving way too fast right now, and that's part of the reason why we're destroying the planet at such a rapid pace. So if we're always talking about slowing things down, then we should also talk about slowing our content down and really being intentional about the messaging that we're putting out there. And lastly, I would say when you're communicating about sustainability issues online, don't use too much jargon, just make things as easy to understand as possible and pretend that your audience knows absolutely nothing about environmentalism. Pretend like they're kindergartners and they're just learning about all of these topics for the first time. I know so many people are making like guides right now online, but if you would ever want a guide on how to start becoming an eco-creator or an environmental creative, just let me know in the comments. I probably wouldn't make it unless people specifically asked for it because that's a lot of work, but if you're interested, just let me know in the comments. Someone said, what are your favorite East Coast hikes? Girl, I cannot tell you because I am a West Coast girly. The only place I ever lived on the East Coast was in Florida, and it was completely flat, so there was no hikes there. Are you vegan? I feel like no matter what my answer is on this, people are gonna get mad at me. So right now I am not vegan. When I was doing my undergrad for like 2 years, I was vegan, and I think I just wasn't doing it right or wasn't nourishing myself right because my body was protesting the entire time that I was vegan. My acne was the worst it had ever been in my entire life. My energy levels were really low. I just didn't feel like myself. I was having all of these different ailments and recurring illnesses that just kept popping up. And as soon as I stopped my vegan diet, all of those things immediately went away. I'm not gonna blame all of my ailments on the veganism, but I think I need to do a blood test to see like what kinds of foods and diet are better for my body and my lifestyle. But in general, I don't really eat red meat because of its environmental impact. And when I cook for myself at home, I'm pretty much vegetarian. But when I'm out with family or friends or at certain events or functions, I really like being an easygoing person and I hate causing trouble for people, so I never want to be that person that's like, sorry, I can't eat any of this. What are your thoughts on regenerative fashion to build on the progress in sustainability? Whew, that could be a whole nother video in and of itself. I think regenerative fashion really has the potential to transform the fashion industry into one that is actively healing our planet and healing the soil instead of exploiting it and destroying it. I think my only thing is the problem that the fashion industry has is that everyone always wants to scale everything onto a mass scale. Everyone always wants to mass produce items and mass produce collections. And that inherently is not sustainable. So I think if we really want regenerative fashion to truly heal the planet and help ecosystems, it has to be on small local scales. Okay, last question because I'm tired of yapping. How are we building a climate movement with disinformation/misinformation and apathy? That is a hard question that I can't really answer. I think none of us can really answer that fully. That's something that we're all gonna have to figure out together. Speaking to apathy, I really think that our power as humans lies in our ability to storytell and to tap into each other's emotions. And as humans at a scientific and evolutionary level, we crave community, and we have always survived through hard times through passing down stories to one another. So I think we can really fight apathy by telling stories that really touch our hearts. I lately have been trying to make more content that is not only aesthetically appealing, but tells a story that really makes people emotional and really makes people realize how close our connection with the earth has always been. And when you're able to tell a story instead of just telling people facts about a crisis, you're able to really connect with them on a deeper level, and that is what humans crave. And with misinformation and disinformation, I truly think that we just need more climate storytellers. We need more people in media speaking the climate truth. I think one of my biggest realizations after this past election was that we do not have enough people in the environmental and sustainability space making content online. When you think about the top podcasts in America today, they are all right-wing conservative male podcasts just spewing misinformation and disinformation. And that is what people are watching. So we desperately need more climate communicators and more climate storytellers making media online because we need an opposition to all of the Joe Rogans of the world. And I don't even know any of the other right-wing male podcaster names, but we need competition to that. So if you have been debating starting a social media page, starting a podcast, a blog, a YouTube, anything to talk about environmental issues, now is your time. And don't be afraid of starting just because you think you don't know enough. Just start with the things that you know. And if you're passionate about these things, your passion will leak through your medium and it will infect other people. So yeah, we really need more climate storytellers out there, so please join me. Okay, that's enough yapping from me today. Thank you so much for watching my first YouTube video. This is so fun. I really just wanted this first video to be less produced and more organic, and I really just wanted to talk with you guys and kind of reintroduce myself. So thank you for being here, and stay tuned for more videos coming soon. Make sure that you subscribe so that you can be notified when my next video drops, and please let me know in the comments what kinds of videos you want to see on my YouTube. I am still trying to figure out what I want to post on here, here. So please give me some ideas. What kinds of content do you want to see? Do you want to see me recommending sustainable brands? Do you want to see me doing more storytelling type content, more educational content, more vlogs? I don't know. Just let me know and I'll probably do a little mix of everything. I'll talk to you soon. Bye y'all.